Mel Albin. I'm the host and the founder of the Jazz Confusion
My
Power
name
Hour.
is Diane Schuur, and I'm honored to share my passion of music with you, our listening audience, through my cultural heritage.
Things can change for you too. If you want to be brand new, that is absolutely possible.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Jazz Confusion Power Hour on the Source TV Radio Network, WTSN, Washington, D.C. I'm your host, Mel Albin, and for those of you who are new to the show and to the station, let me tell you a little bit about the Power Hour. I developed the Power Hour because I wanted to have a platform for musicians, vocalists, artists in jazz crossover, and R&B for an in-depth interview and to play some of their music and to find out more about how they create music. You know, very often people think that when an artist goes on stage and performs at a concert, they just get up and sing or they get up and play. And it's not like that. There's a lot of hard work that goes in. And I want you to get familiar with the process of creating music, both in the recording studio and on stage. So, you know, we select some wonderful artists on the Power Hour. And in the past, we've had artists like Eric Roberson, Sheryl Crow, Mesa, Bob James, Raheem Devon, Annie Lennox, Billy Ocean, Kiko Matsui, Kelly Finnegan, Alex Harris, Nikki Howard, Reagan Whiteside, Dee Brown, Selena Johnson, Mavis Swan Poole, Castella, Yulia, Blake Aaron, Terry Wollman, Jeff Bradshaw, the late Bobby Caldwell, Kamasi Washington, her, Reggie Merrickx, and many more. We have some of the finest musicians and vocalists performing today in jazz crossover, and R&B. And tonight's no exception. We have a great musician, a singer, songwriter, producer. He's been nominated for a Grammy Award. His personal roots are steeped in Southern blues and jazz from his birth in Jackson, Mississippi. He studied sax under Fats Waller's band member, Andy Hardwick, and performing with groups that opened for B.B. King. He moved to the Pacific Northwest and rapidly began making a name for himself as an artist with soul and versatility. He's in Portland, Oregon. He studied there with Dave Bardune, and the former arranger for the Stan Kenton Band, and began touring in the early 1990s with multiple Grammy-winning songwriter and vocalist Diane Schuur. He performed with Lionel Hampton, and by request performed twice at the White House. His focus as a songwriter and performing artist is old school R&B, soul, jazz. I like to refer to his music as soft soul or soft R&B, but not smooth jazz, because he just has a different approach. He combines the influences of funk, soul, R&B, and a flavor of jazz to create his own unique sound as a performer and songwriter. Today, he plays about 250 dates a year that are a good balance of shows supporting other artists and his own. He's released 7 CDs, and his latest release, I Remember When, is moving up on the jazz charts, and you're going to hear it tonight. So please welcome our special guest, Patrick Lamb.
Hey everybody, how you doing? Mel, thanks for having me on. Man, wow, that's a lot of stuff. I just you're bringing me through the memory banks, and I'm like, man, has that all happened? Am I here? That's been a long but fun road, and I really appreciate you having me on the program. I'm sure it's going to stir up some interesting thoughts with the convo today.
I'm sure it will. I'm delighted to have you on. Yeah, I've been following your music for a long time, but when I got in contact with Adam, ASL Media.
Yeah, my record promoter, who's absolutely Albin has he's been promoting my last 3 singles, and they've all been received well by XM and everybody. So thank you, Adam. If you do watch it, he's probably too busy. He's probably on the phone, but hey, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I always let him know when I'm going to feature one of his artists. So, I'm glad that I was able to get in contact with you and have you on the show. So let's start off the evening, Patrick, with you telling everybody what's cooking. I like listeners to find out what are you doing in 2024 in the studio, on stage. What's going on?
Oh my gosh, what am I? Where do I start? It's nonstop, pretty much nonstop through next year. So I mean, next week we have, I'm continually going out with Gino Vannelli. So we have Sony Hall, and there's the Syracuse Jazz Festival that I have some. Right after that, I fly to do a private in the Northwest. Then I come back to Palm Beach, and I'm playing Funky Biscuit. And then anyway, you can see a lot of this stuff that's coming up. Constantly working on new music. This has been a really formative time for me because I've been a side guy to a lot of people, and really the last couple of years I've started focusing on my own thing, which has been a totally new and fun journey. So it's a lot of different things. I mean, I produce concerts, produced a jazz series the last 13 years, and at a resort in Central Oregon called Jazz at the Oxford. I've had everybody from Arturo Sandoval to Sheila E. to Joey DeFrancesco, Diane Schuur, anybody, you name it. And then just constantly touring, playing, and then more often now playing with my own band. So that's a Cliff Notes, I guess, for you.
That's good. Okay, well, you sure sound like you're busy, and you do a lot of gigs. I mean, you're really out there performing quite often.
Well, I love it. That's if you start as you start thinking about what you want your life to look like, and what I really enjoy doing is writing and playing my music for other people. I mean, I love working with Gino Vannelli and Bobby Caldwell. I toured with him for 8 years, and then of course Diane Schuur and all these incredible artists. Really, as time goes on, you hope to develop your own unique sound and something that's recognizable as to the people out there. So that's kind of become more of my focus as of late.
Yeah, I've been following you probably since 2018 when you started going and doing some of your own music. Maybe 2019. I'm not sure the exact date, but the music that you're producing is very unique in my mind. It's just differentiated from most genres, and that's why I'm so pleased to have you on. I'm going to play some of that music very soon. Was there music in your home? How did you get into music to begin with?
Well, my stepfather. So I was born in Jackson, Mississippi. My stepfather was basically in a wedding band who would play at parties and honky tonks, and very good piano player. I mean, but he always had really great records. A lot of from Ray Charles to Horace Silver, Coltrane, the Phoebe Snow. Really a eclectic. Little bit of a hippie, leaning, but it's like a hippie and then straight ahead jazz collective of great stuff. And so I grew up hearing that in the house, and then he would take me to these honky tonks, like the Armadillo headquarters. We lived in Austin, Texas for a little bit. So, this back in the 70s, you could take your child to see, I remember him taking me to see Joe Cocker and, some of these great artists when I was practically a baby. I remember going, they had a shuffleboard. One of my earliest memories is they had a shuffleboard in, it came up to about right here. I would come up to the shuffleboard. Anyway, but and then the Mothers of Invention tour. And so I just remember being around all kinds of music very, very early on. Yeah, for sure.
You mentioned Phoebe Snow. I grew up in New York, and I went to Queens College, and I'm considerably older than most people. I was born before music was even created.
Oh, you were not.
But I met Paul Simon, and because he used to play at Queens College a lot in Art Garfunkel, and he ended up doing a song with Phoebe Snow. And I met Phoebe, and she can scale 8 octaves. I've never heard a range like that in my life.
She's
8 octaves.
a unicorn. She does nobody, just instantly recognizable, unbelievable ability, totally unique songwriting. So, yeah, I grew up around stuff like that. That definitely made an impression, on me coming up.
Did you play music in public school? Were you part of a band or anything? Or when did you just take to the sax?
I didn't start until way later. I moved 13 times by the time I was like 14. So my parents, and they're not in the military, and I don't. To this day, I don't know why we moved so much. I think my dad just was finding different jobs, and so we lived in Jackson, Mississippi, Cleveland, Mississippi, Boyle, Mississippi, Raymond, Mississippi, St. Simons Island, Georgia, Banders, Georgia, Newnan, Georgia, Austin, Texas, and I'm missing a few. So we moved constantly, pretty much until my stepdad Bill got a job in Portland, Oregon, heading up the science department. He's a physics teacher, so he got a very good position at Oregon Episcopal School in Portland, Oregon, which is one of the top schools in the nation. And so we moved to Portland, and we moved into the student dorms, I remember. And at the time, they didn't really have any money, so they couldn't afford to send me to the school he was teaching at. They have some kind of deal that they work out for the teachers where you can actually go to the schools that, at some kind of discount, but they hadn't worked that out. So they sent me to a public school. And the blessing in that is that the public school had a music program and Oregon Episcopal didn't. So had I gone to Oregon Episcopal, I might not have picked up the saxophone. So I went to Cedar Park Middle School, and the teacher that taught there was the same teacher that taught Chris Bodie, Mr. Robert Ernst. So, these signature teachers really light the fire, under different students. That's where it all starts, really, is just having a teacher that takes time with you. And I remember my family, true to form, had got to town late. They just always seemed like they were behind. They enrolled me late, and so it was like 2 weeks into the semester, and I got into class. I don't know if you could picture that, but everybody else is already there. Everybody's already picked an instrument, and they're like, "Hey, here's Patrick. Welcome Patrick to the class." So I come in, and he's like, "Well, sit down." And he's like, "Well, what would you like to play?" He's like, "Well, trumpet or drums, is typically like what the kids want to play because they're loud, But everybody had already picked those instruments. They had like, 4 or 5 trumpet players and drummers. So Mr. Ernst sat me down with a book. I don't know if you've seen those, with the pictures of the instruments, and we just flipped through. And the first one was I picked was a clarinet, and I took that home. I really didn't like it. I came back, and then I ended up playing the saxophone. So that started with the saxophone, and I went through all of the books pretty quickly, and it became apparent that this was something I could do well. And so I went through all of those books, and then was getting maybe a little cocky with it, and then he brought me a book called the Charlie Parker Omnibook, which is a bunch of transcribed solos. And he said, "Here, learn this, And that was hard, but that was really the start of having a jazz vocabulary. So I went through and learned a bunch of Charlie Parker solos. Then I started going out to sessions jam sessions there in Portland. At the time, it was called the Jazz Quarry, and they had one called Ramos, headed up by Ron Steen. A lot of you might know Ron Steen. He's still just a fantastic teacher and player in Portland. And then, so through that, you start building. It's hard to explain how this happens to people who aren't involved in music, but basically you go out and you start creating a name for yourself, and then you start getting calls. People get your number, basically. And then through that, I got my first tour with Diane Schuur. I got a call from a friend who said, I can't do this gig. I'm already booked. There's this lady, Diane Schuur. I'm like, I didn't know who she was. But the first gig was at the Schnitzer Hall, which I didn't know where that was either. It was the biggest hall in Portland. I was playing little clubs, so I had no clue. Like, okay, Schnitzer Hall, must be another club. So the first shows were sold out. And then her manager had sent me her records, which had Stan Getz soloing on them. So that was my first clue. And then I transcribed all of that, and then showed up to the gig. We had like a tiny rehearsal, and then. So
you learned music theory. You learned music theory from Ernst. Is that where you learned it?
Really, I was going to. I know I skipped some sections here of my life here, but no, I ended up going to Mount Hood Community College. I got scholarships to. Let me back up again. So, I went to the Lionel Hampton Jazz Festival, entered into their soloist competition under this guy named Thayer Memory, and ended up winning that competition and playing with Lionel Hampton, and getting this little award or whatever. And then through that, I got offered scholarships. To all the schools that I applied for. I decided I wanted to go to Mount Hood because Mount Hood was in Portland, and at the time I was starting to get a lot of work around that area. And then also Dave Bardoon taught at Mount Hood Community College. He was a very, very respected teacher. And so I went to Mount Hood. I was touring with Diane Schuur, and playing other gigs and so forth. And that's kind of how things got started.
Wow, that's a great story. You moved around a lot. That's amazing that you're able to become grounded, and be able to pick up an instrument and be in one place to play. So.
It's a trip, as I was telling you before the interview, I'm I currently live in Palm Beach, and I recently got married April 10th, and to a real family girl. She's Italian. She's like full-blooded Italian, all about the family. And for me, that's what I think I always craved. Was family, and because I was really just disconnected and moving around all the time as a kid. So yeah, it's been. But to your point, what we talked about earlier, it was that I'm really from the Mississippi Delta. That's where my earliest memories are. And going to first and second grade in Boyle, Mississippi, next to a cotton field. And for those of you who don't know what rural Mississippi was like in the early 70s, it's hard to convey.
Yeah.
In words, but it's very different.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, it's been full circle. I found, my family, real family girl here in Palm Beach, and I love it here. There's lots of sun and vitamin D. Something that Portland was definitely lacking. It rains about 3/4.
Rains all the time. I know. I've been there many times.
So I get that seasonal depression there. You don't even know why until you move away. Until I came here, and then I was like, oh, I just feel happier. I wonder why that is. Because, the sun.
Just a quick digression. I was born and raised within several miles of New York City. So you never saw stars at night because of the halo effect from all the bright lights of Manhattan.
Yeah.
And I remember,
you already know. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember being in my mid-20s, and I went to the Pocono Mountains with a friend of mine. And I remember going out at night and looking up at the sky and seeing this black sky with all these stars. And I went back inside and I said, "There's something wrong." I said, "Take a look." And she looked. He said, "What's wrong?" I said, "Where'd those stars come from?" I had never seen a true night sky, and I was stunned. It took me till I was 25 to realize what the solar system really looks like.
Yeah, you just don't know what you don't know until you know.
Until you know. Yeah.
So for me, I remember some of my happiest times were, I think, St. Simon's Island, where I lived for a time, and then Austin, Texas. But I remember it was sunny. So now it feels right to be back in the South. Plus, there's just a hospitality thing. Some people will differ, but for me, and I mean, there's great people and weird people everywhere you go. But here, I think the aggregate of personalities, there's more. Just it's hard to explain. It's a hospitality thing to connect, like really authentically, look you in the eye, like really want to know how you're doing, kind of thing. That's more true for me here,
when you lived in Austin's a very musical city. Also, it's got a really long tradition. The Austin city limits, So you've lived in some interesting places. I want to talk about your music a little bit before we start to play some of your music very shortly. Your music, and I don't like the term smooth jazz, and often your music is categorized as smooth jazz. I think your music is much more bluesy and funky. How would you describe your musical style compared to other musicians who are in the genre of smooth jazz? What makes your music unique in your mind?
Well, I think all the titles have the weaknesses of a title, or a stereotype. And so I know it's really cliche, but, to say that you're a result of your influences. But, like I said, I come from the Mississippi Delta. And really, as an instrumentalist, there's only a couple of choices you have in terms of current. We're talking about, radio and success in terms of getting your music played now, I think, which is different than it used to be. But there's contemporary jazz, the smooth jazz, and then there's college radio, Chris Potter, Joshua Redman, Michael Brecker, where they play all the greats. And so, for me, I'm just a conglomeration of my influences. I played the blues, for many years. I toured with G.C. Cameron who did a stint with the Temptations. We opened up for B.B. King. We played all over the place. I spent a lot of time in Mississippi playing with Andy Hardwick. If you're from Jackson, Mississippi, you'll know Andy Hardwick. He's kind of a legend there, but he took me under his wing and really taught me a lot of different types of music at this place called Poets, where I got my first gig when I went back to Jackson when my grandmother had gotten very sick. So I went back to spend some time there. It's hard to say, blues, funk, soul, R&B. I can't be stuck in a box. I have Latin. I have a Latin song I wrote that's coming out soon. I refuse to be compartmentalized.
Good. Well, let's turn to the first song I want to play tonight, Street Cred. Why don't you tell people the backstory on this? Who was on the song with you and how it came about.
Oh, sure. Okay. So when I lived in Portland, I used to bring up different artists and promote concerts at a place called Jimmy Mac's. And Jimmy Mac's was probably the most famous club that's been in Portland for the last 30, 40 years. And Jimmy Mack was a dear friend of mine. He when he opened the first club, he came out to one of my gigs and was sitting in the audience, came up to me and was like, "Hey, I'm opening up this club called Jimmy Mack's, and I want you to open up the club." So I ended up being the first artist to open up the club. And then this little bit of a long story, I'm trying to make it short, but I'm an entrepreneur. So I founded a ticket company called Ticket Tomato. Ticket Tomato ended up doing all of the ticketing. So I did millions of dollars of ticketing there, and then at the Waterfront Blues Festival. And then through that, I started bringing up artists to Jimmy Mack's. One of those was Jeff Lorber, who I ended up hiring probably more than any other promoter in the area. So I brought him up, hired him probably 6-7 times. And through that, we built a relationship. And he was like, "Hey, you're a great artist, but you don't have a great record." He said, you should actually hire me to produce a good record. And I said, so after a couple of years of that, I think it was like the 6th time I'd hired him up there. I was like, "Yeah, let's do it. Let's pull the trigger." I put the money together. And so we did one record. The first one was called "It's All Right Now." The second one was called "Soul Ties," and that's the one that Street Cred is on. So with that, I am getting back around to your question. It's just taking a minute. But so I reached out to Jeff. I said, well, basically, I went through. You would go through this period of time when you're trying to figure out what kind of record you want to make, right? And so I'm like, it's got to be funky. So I went through, basically got all of his material that I liked the most, and then based on that, I figured out who were the players on my favorite Jeff Lorber stuff. And that turned out to be Alex Al, Little John Roberts, and Tony Maiden. So, Tony Maiden was with Shotgun Khan. He's on a lot of those, great original records. So I said, what I really want to do is I want to do this more old school. I want to get everybody in the room, so we're going to write for a couple of weeks. So I flew down to LA from Portland. We wrote for a couple of weeks, and then we had scheduled 2 days for recording with those people. I said, that's what I want to do. I want to see them. I don't want it to be, because now a lot of times, you say, okay, I got this track, I got this track.
Yeah.
Even with like this latest track that you're going to play, that I Remember When. That was, it's not everybody in the same room. It's like I had Michael Thompson over here. I got, Eric Valentine, and then, the people send in your tracks. But anyway, so we got together. Jeff and I wrote for 2 weeks, and then we had 2 days, and I absolutely loved it. We had, it was, Alex Al, one of the greatest bass players ever lived, toured with Michael Jackson. He's just so funky. He's got a really distinct finger style. Nobody really has it. He likes to play a 4-string, just very unique, but super rhythmic. It's just, anyway, we got together, Lil Jon, Alex Al, Tony Maiden, Jeff Lorber, and recorded the record, and that's
here it is.
Street Cred.
So let's hear Street Cred now by Patrick Lamb. That's lovely, Patrick.
Thank you. I like that song. Wow. Yeah, that's a cool. That's a cool, unique groove. I didn't used to say that when you first start writing. I just remember listening back to stuff and going, "Oh man, that was terrible." But
I've never had an artist on that hasn't said that.
but what a happy little song, you know. It's like
it is. It's a feel good song.
Yeah.
You know, speaking of the devil, Ellis White, who I've been talking to you about, he's listening in and he made a comment. Hey, Patrick, nice to see you on the show. Good stuff.
Oh man, hi Ellis, how are you, man? I'm looking forward to. Really, this is all about making new friends. You know, that it took me quite a few years to understand that, but it's really about just making friends all over the planet. And so, Ellis, looking forward to meeting you, my friend. And it's great. Thank you, Mel, for being like a one-person street team here.
That's what I do. I network.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that means a lot, because I mean, you inadvertently plant seeds and start all kinds of relationships, and then over a period of time, 2 + 2 = 5. You know, with people like you. So thanks, Mel.
My pleasure. Thank you. And here's another comment from Joe Morano. Love the groove. Nice arrangement with you playing a Barry sax.
No, it's a tenor saxophone.
That's what I thought.
I have a kind of darker type, I guess more old school type sound. So I could see how somebody might think, you know, wow, is that a Barry? It's kind of dark sounding, but no, it's a tenor.
Tenor sax. Good. Okay. Well, you know, I love that track. You know, I picked the tracks that I like for the show tonight. So, you know,
Mel Albin show.
Yeah, it is. But it's really about you, all about you. So you started your career at the tail end of the dominance of record labels and FM radio. You know, when you first started out, what challenges confronted you as an emerging artist? Because suddenly there was no label giving you studio time. There was no label putting you on tour. No label grooming you for a style of music or a particular look. Suddenly, you're thrown to the wolves. You're on your own. What were you thinking at the time during this period, your early period of music?
Well, I have no earlier reference, so I'm envious of these stories where people are like, "Wow, I used to sell, you know, millions of records and get paid for them." I'm like, I've never been had that reference point. So, not to be trite, but really, it's you know, early on, it's just about survival, you know, and doing what you want to do. You know, some people ask me, they're like, "Well, how do you make it? And how do you make it in music? How did you do it? You know, or should they say rather, should I have a career in music? You know, and I don't take this wrong, but like if you have to ask that, probably now the answer is no, because it's not for the faint-hearted. You know, you have to really want to play music. If you don't really want to play music, then forget about it, because it's now you have to learn something about everything. I mean, I've always been a DIYer, and I'm in from the ground up. Like I'm a man's man. Like I can fix my car. I can build. You know, I can frame up a room. I can start a company. I've always had this thing inside me, which is just, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna have to learn how to do it. You know, so if you don't have that inside of you, I don't know. I'm just gonna pray for you.
Well, yeah, you know, Patrick, the problem is there are very few entrepreneurs who are musicians. You know, somebody I've had on and I love, Brian Culbertson. Brian is you know, the consummate showman. He runs 2 festivals, one in Chicago, one in California. You know, he does all his staging, he does all his writing, his arranging. I mean, he does everything from the ground up, similar to what you're talking about. But there's very few of you out there. And, you know, most of the musicians need to build a good team, but then they don't know how to build a good team.
Well, yeah, you know, life is, I'm full of like sayings, my little lambisms that I have. Everybody has their own sayings, right? But like one of them is, it's always who's on board. You're, not where you're going, because if you got the right who's on board, you can have like the tiniest bit of opportunity, right? Knock that, we're clean out of the park, right? You can take it, 2 + 2 will be 5, and then 10, and all of a sudden, you're like I started a ticket company with $5,000, ended up doing many millions of gross with it. But, initially it's a fight. You have to really want to learn and get your hands on it. So I'm not sure where that comes from. I guess, for me, I think I've worked every job that you name it, I've done it, like until music worked out. So early on, I was going to school. I was, parking cars, driving trucks, making pizza, delivering pizza. I mean, I could make early on, like I was in my teens, I could make and deliver 3 pizzas in an hour. In Oregon City. No, I'm serious. It's a true story. I mean, so it's a willingness to do whatever the hell it takes to get it done. So I don't have that thing that's like, well, you can't do it. I'm like, no, it's already done. And
exactly.
And it's the universe is going to have to move the bleep out of the way. That's how that's going to happen. So how's it going to happen? We're going to work together and we're going to pray about it. It's not all about just being about human effort, but you have to have a determination. And I think back to your question, about the record labels. Again, I don't have any reference of help. I've never had any huge record deal or breaks. When I hear people like Everett Harp, I hear them tell stories about $60,000, $70,000, $100,000 record deals, and I'm like, when I just did mine for 20, I can't relate. It's all up to me.
It's like
and the record promoters and the this and the plane flights. I mean, I book tons of plane flights all the time. So you just have to decide that you're going to do the work. And I watch people like Will Smith, and I know a lot of you guys probably have, the willingness to. I have a sound company. Like the guys know I'll outwork anybody down there on the ground. I'll unload the truck. I've done it many times myself. Mm-hmm. So that kind of willingness is what it's going to take. Some people, not everybody can wake up and be, Esperanza Spalding and, just go do what you do, and with all respect to her and love for her, I'm just saying, I'm just trying to give you a realistic thing. A lot of us have to do other things and collaborate and make some other things happen.
Well, you really need to, because if you're depending on 0.0008 cents a spin, you're not going to make much money.
Oh yeah, I was just funny. I was just talking with Sean LaBelle, who put out that incredible track, which you have, right? With Love Kept Calling Your Name, with Stokely and Mesa and Mauricio, produced by Mauricio. I'm just very blessed to just even be a part of it. But we were literally just talking about that. I was on my 6-mile walk here at Palm Beach, and I'll use the walk to kind of call people and kind of just get some creative stuff going. And we were talking about that very thing, and how you get Happy, you had like 8 million spins, and it turned out that's like $50 or something. I don't know. So,
yeah, you do a million spins, you make $80.
Yeah. so that's the new model. That's the new model. The new model.
It is. That's why you got to do other things. You have a fan here, Ann Wright. If you look at the Ann Wright side,
and you rock. Ann just drove 8 hours to come out to Dallas from like Connecticut. I mean, you want to talk about a fan? Ann Wright is like over the top. She comes out to and supports. She's part of my new record campaign. You know, she's going to be one of the people in the credits and who's supported that. So yeah. Hey, Ann, thanks for being on.
And you know, she said, and even though she knows you, she said she's still fascinated in learning new things about your music tonight. Nobody works harder than you, Patrick. So you know, you have a true fan out there.
Well, thank you. I'm grateful. But yeah, back to that working hard thing. You know, it's not. I don't mean that with any disrespect. Like people, some people, you know, just blessed, you know, differently coming into the earth, and they can. You know, if you can just wake up and be, you know, Whitney Houston or whatever, and go get your, you know, $2 million this week, great, you know, great. But you know, a lot of you just have to make the best you can with what you've got when you've got it, and not wait for the planets to line up. A lot of people are like, well, when this happens, that happens, and this happens, I'm going to do that, and you know, you'd be dead. But you know, it's
well, I want to play another one of your songs for everybody. One that I also absolutely love, and after I play it, you can give people a couple of comments about it. I want to play Casey Blues. Okay.
Right on. Rock that.
So let's play Casey Blues, and we'll come back and talk a minute about it. I think one of your fans nailed it, Carlos Mariachi. He said we need more of this. Nothing like a bluesy, jazzy, funky mix. Thank you.
Heck to the yeah. Hey Carlos, how are you doing, my friend? Thanks for listening in. Yeah, it's I love that music, and that was just that's another record I just did with Mel Brown, pretty well known drummer in Portland. So that was quite some time ago, but that's all underneath the hood, you know. It's in terms of experience playing, and I have some other kind of fusion funk stuff coming out. Anyway, just you gotta do what God puts in front of you and explore. It's all about exploring, you know, kind of what you're interested in and what's fun, you know.
After listening to this track, I have a question for you. Have you ever thought of composing and recording a Delta Chicago blues album?
Not until this moment.
Well, you should do it.
You know, I think of you mean like singing it or just playing or what?
Whatever. You know, look, yeah. you came out of the Delta with Delta blues. You know the migration from Mississippi and and the deep South to Chicago, and blues traveled with them and became electric. And I think you could do a wonderful recording. Doing some Delta shit.
You know what just came to mind is I was actually just texting Tony Coleman. Actually, we did talk about that at some point. Tony Coleman. Okay. You want to talk about blues? He toured with B.B. King for many, many years, and so we did talk about that because I can write horn lines like that type of stuff in my sleep. Yeah. So it's just so innate and part of how many years I spent playing the blues. But I'm an artist. Like I like to do a thing and then move on. But that's something I haven't done. I mean, I played the.
That's why I brought it up.
It's like some artists get, they do a certain thing and then they just keep regurgitating that same thing.
Yeah.
And then and I'm like a kid. I get bored in about 2.5 seconds. So I'm like, I like to, play the blues. I won like, different awards by the Muddy Award Association, 3 awards. Then I got bored, and then so I did a symphony. I had 2 symphonies, then the symphony project, tribute to Ray Charles, that won a Muddy Award, and then I was like, well, then I was touring with different people, and I decided I wanted to do some singing. So it's all about growing and like.
Well, I never met a great artist that didn't say, "I'm moving on." Once you get stuck, you're done. And you got to be fresh. You got to keep moving ahead, and that's what you do. I want to play another one of your songs that's now charting right now that I also love. It's called "I Remember When." So let's play that, and then we'll spend a couple of minutes talking about that too. Okay?
Beautiful. All right. Thanks.
We're starting to run out of time, unfortunately, and I'm going to have you come back. But another comment from Ann Wright: you can hear your gratitude with this upbeat and happy piece.
Yeah.
And what I hear is Carlos Santana.
Oh man. Okay, so that's Michael Thompson. That was penned by Michael Thompson. Real quickly here, we have a project, a side project called Thompson Lamb Project. You can see at thompsonlambproject.com. But Michael Thompson's one of the most recorded guitar players of all time. He's on all of Celine Dion's, all of Shania Twain, of David Foster's right hand.
Wow.
So he's 100, literally. Just look up Michael Thompson Reel on YouTube and spend an hour listening to hit songs that he's been on. So anyway, him and I are dear friends, and he was an inspiration when I kind of started working in LA, and we ended up going and playing at Jakarta for the president over there for a big televised thing together with Jeff Lorber at the time. So that's how we met. Anyway, we stayed in touch. That's the song that he penned and I produced right here.
Love it.
My studio.
Love it. Let's wrap up with one more song from you, and then we'll have to have you back again. I really enjoyed the evening and learning more about you, and I enjoy the music so much. So that your last song is "Your Love Kept Calling My Name," and this is a collaboration. So briefly, in a few words, how did this come about?
Sean LaBelle is a multi-million. He's produced many songs. That worked with Jody Watley and produced many songs that have sold millions of records. R&B producer, and he asked me to be on it with Mesa and Jeff Lorber, and arranged by Mauricio Matali, who's I'm grateful to work with. So very cool song. You're gonna love it.
I love this song too. So let's hear "Your Love Kept Calling My Name" with Patrick Lamb et al.
Before I walked right into new love, and I always wanted to play love hard, but boy, with you it was not enough. You had something so for real, love so strong it made my heart stand still.
I want to point out that one of my friends who I love, Mesa, is on that track. And Mesa is going to be appearing at the Lake Arbor Jazz Festival this weekend. So all you people listening in, go out and see Mesa. She'll be performing here in Maryland this weekend.
Dad, man, just sounds beautiful. And I want to come out there and play with all you guys. So, put in a good word. I want to come out and play at, up in your neighborhood. I'm kind of relatively new on my own. So people are like, well, what the heck is, what the heck does Patrick do? I can just say that we've sold out 6 of our last 8 concerts, and we've got a really compelling show. So have me out, bring me in. Let's do it.
We're definitely going to do that. Patrick, it's been wonderful. We have over 150,000 people tonight who have tuned in to listen to you just on this station. It doesn't even count all the 16,000 affiliates who may be broadcasting the show tonight too. So you have lots of fans and lots of new fans, who are going to know your music.
Just a big group hug to everybody then, all 160,000 of you.
Definitely. Yeah, you're going to have to come back again soon and spend more time with us. Will you do that?
I would love it. Absolutely. Very grateful. Really, really appreciate your efforts. Mel, you, like I said, you're a one-person street team, and you've really connected me with a lot of new friends, and I hope we could just keep increasing the love fest. Definitely.
We'll do that. Next week, I'm going to have somebody on who you probably know. I'm going to have on Greg Adams. Greg Adams was one of the founders of Tower of Power, and he founded East Bay Soul. And Greg Adams will be our guest next week.
That's fantastic. I don't know him personally. I'm looking forward to getting to know him personally at some point. So, yeah, thank you. Making all these connections.
If you're in town, hook up and you'll listen to Greg and say hello.
I will do. We'll do it.
Well, thanks so much, Patrick, and we'll see you again very shortly, I hope.
Thank you so much, Mel, and everyone. God bless. See you guys soon.
Good night, Patrick.
Good night.
That wraps up for this week. And next week, be sure to tune in to see Greg Adams. And you'll see the founder of Tower of Power and East Bay Soul. Have a great week, everybody. I'm Mel Albin. I'm the host. I'm the founder of the Jazz Confusion Power Hour.
My name is Dion Parson, and I'm honored to share my passion of music with you, our listening audience, through my cultural heritage.
Things can change for you too. If you want to be brand new, that is absolutely possible.